Hey, what's up, everybody? I am super excited today because this interview was actually supposed to happen last weekend, and I'm thankful that it's happening this weekend because it actually gave me even more time to prep up for it. And I have with me Thomas Johnson II, who is the owner, writer, artist, creator, and does everything for the Raxon Universal Dominion comic company and that entire universe. So thank you for being on. I'm super excited.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting because I actually really like this. This reminds me very much of Gundam. It is an entire universe, but I would imagine that people who are watching this and are going to be watching this on replay might not have heard of the Raxon universe as I define it in that entire series. So, what was the inspiration for this? Because there's a lot of stuff going on with this. There's a lot of stories. There's some webtoon stuff. There's some YouTube stuff. There's a source book for it.
Oh, yeah.
So, what is going on, and what is the basic premise before we get too far into this?
Let's see. Which question do you want me to start with first?
Whatever question you want to start with. This is about you. It's not about me.
Let's see. Let's see. Raxon Universal Dominion, it is big. It pretty much was inspired by old school anime that I grew up on. You know, I'm old. Glad I don't have super detailed cameras so you can see all this gray on my head. But like I grew up watching like Battle of the Planets, Gigantor, and when Robotech came out, oh, it was a wrap then. So that was pretty much like and still is one of my all-time favorite anime of all time. So when that came out, it gave me a lot of inspiration, and I've been drawing like all my life, pretty much. Always been into sci-fi. My dad got me into it. Anime, I didn't know what anime was until the Sci-Fi Channel came out long time ago. But and I had started drawing for Raxon pretty much like back in high school. We're talking about way back now. We're talking about like 1990. And it pretty much started off with, it was pretty much at first, just to give you a crash course history of Raxon. It started off kind of like G.I. Joe,
Knowing is half the battle. Knowing is half the battle.
Right. And it started off with just like, I was just drawing like different vehicles, and body armors. And then I met a friend of mine from way back, Dave Hohensi. And he got me into the RPGs of Palladium. So he showed me some of those books, and I was like, wow. He was like, and he saw some of my drawings. He was like, you need to make this into a book. So I started drawing mechs, and I wasn't confident with drawing mechs for a long time, but then I just started drawing them. And then I started piecing my story together, and it was like it was all in my head, but it was never on paper. So when it spilled out and came out, it was just like, okay, I'm literally drawing ships like a maniac and drawing mechs like a maniac, and it's like, he was like, you need to make this into a book for real. And I'm like, okay. So when I started looking at the Palladium books, they gave me inspiration to put stats and everything to them and everything like that. Like sizes, weapon complements, everything. Problem that I ran into was the biggest thing. I had started drawing the aliens and everything. Had little stories for all the mechs, who was piloting them and everything. Well, I had no pilots. I never drew any pilots. I have this mech, a story behind it that's encased in the universe and everything, but no picture of the pilot whatsoever and his story. Because I was horrible with drawing people. Still am. So it was like, okay. So by that time, we talk about fast forward some years later, I had drew all these mechs, learned how to use Microsoft Word, well, back then Word Perfect, it's another story, and was putting all these drawings together with formats. And so I said, well, hell, the job that I was working, I had access to a printer, unlimited access. So I said, let me quit playing around and actually printed one up and made my own little book. And At that point, it was on and popping. It was like, I have the actual tangibility here, tangible book. So the whole book was in black and white because I hadn't colored any of these drawings except in pencil. And that was the other thing. I'm like, okay, I can color in marker, but not professionally. So started coloring some of them. It was like, okay, yeah, this is cool, But then it was like, yeah, I need some better colors for this if I'm going to sell this. So I met a guy on internet, David White. He was my first digital coloring artist because he used to draw mechs and everything from MechaZone. And I found him from a site called Monthly Mecha Fighting Tournament. And he charged me, I forgot how much he charged me for that first drawing. And the drawing was the Leo Nemesis, one of my mechs. And when he digitally colored it, I was spoiled from that point on. I said, okay, I got to have them all colored this way. Not knowing the nightmare that I jumped into, because it's like, okay, that costed that much. You have how many mechs and you're still drawing them like a maniac, and that's not even including your ships, your people, and your space stations and all of that stuff. So I'm like, oh, this is going to get expensive real quick. And it did, but I still stayed spoiled. So over time, I started finding, new artists that I could use for digital colorings because I am horrible with computers, and doing also inks, because a lot of my drawings, when you're hand drawing, you see a lot of imperfections in them and everything like that. Try to clean them up as much as possible. So I found inkers. So one fee would be inking, another fee would be digital coloring, till I found some that did them both, and it was like not killing me on the price. So got a lot of stuff done and still using that same process to today. So I got I've used a lot of commissioners over the years to where I am now, to where we're doing the comic books. Well, we finally got the source book 1. And let me backtrack for a split second. When I met, my first con that I ever went to was one here called Motor City Age of Black Artists. And I had heard of Comic Cons vaguely, but I was never into really the comic book world. My comic books was Aliens and Predators. I had like first prints of those, and all of them through Dark Horse. So those were my comic book collections. But when me and my cousin, we went to a comic convention, and when I seen everything going on, I was like, oh, these are indie artists. These are people who are making their own comic books, their own books and everything. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to get finalize and get this book out here and sell it. And then I met Jarvis Sheffield, and through him, I met Tyrone Jackson. And me and him on the internet have been like this for years now. And Tyrone gave me the kick in the butt of saying, why don't you just make some comics out of it? And I was always leery of comics. I was like, well, I got the source books, but he was like, well, how are you going to tell the whole story? Because, okay, the source books is one book. Those are just thick books, but don't you want to have things play out your story? Yeah, I do. I said, yeah. So I got to working on the comics and finding commissioners who can draw comics, because like I say, I can do them, but it would take me forever. And I said, I got too many stories in my head and I'm not getting any younger, and this thing has been around too long. So my first year, I was getting ready for a con. I actually got 7 comics finished that year. And I had a first arc of 12. And the goal was to try to have all 12 of them finished that year. But I got screwed over by one commissioner, learned a lesson there, and money. So those things came into play. But everybody was like, how did you crank out this many comics that fast? I'm like, I just was nonstop. I was storyboarding them myself, reading them to myself. And also I have best partner in the world, business partner who I said now is family to me, Damone Amerson. He's drawn some of our comics too. He does our 3D prints. He's the one who does all the formatting of all the books and everything. Because me, I would have ruined every book there is that we have. So has been the greatest help to me there is. And when I first met him, I showed him my drawings, and he was just like, okay. And then I said, you want to see some more? He was like, yeah. And so when I showed him my photo bucket, he was like, oh, you got a whole universe right here. I was like, I guess I do. So he was like, and I said, you want to be my business partner? He was like, yeah. I said, okay, 50-50 everything. So, and we've been, I call him the mad scientist with me, you know. It's like we be creating so much stuff. And I said, no book gets approved without him looking at it, or any drawing. If he doesn't like it, it's like, okay, back to the drawing board with it. So we have a lot of fun with it. And it's just been, you know, working on the books to where now, where it was originally just one whole book, well, that's out the window. It was going to be just one source book that had everything in it. Well, after I met Damone, I got to cranking out so many more drawings, it turned into source books. So now we're looking at 6 to 7 source books, each one having at least 270 plus pages of information, art, the whole 9 yards, because the story takes place over generations. So it's a long story. And I did a podcast about 2 months ago, and they asked, well, how many comic books do you think you're going to have with that? I said, well over 100. And my wallet was just looking back at me like, how are we going to do this? But, you know, we finished the first, well, this is the funny thing too. We have a first arc of 12 comic books. The funniest thing is, actually, book number 11 is the one that's not finished. We are now 3 pages from that book being finished for that comic book. And source book 1 is finished. We're working on source book 2, which is going to be completely about the aliens of the story. So that one is all aliens, all the stuff that's in that. So yeah, it's a pretty big project.
So let's dive into this a little bit more, because this is really fascinating, and I'm curious where your mecha designs come from and what inspires you and what your warships, because there's definitely, before we started this interview, just so everybody knows, we were speaking a little bit about Robotech, and Macross definitely going beyond Robotech has amazing warships. Captain Harlock, which is old school, has amazing work.
Oh yeah.
Gundam, going back that route. And clearly, even going forward to some degree, there's a few more animes that I can mention that really do a nice job. Bodacious Space Pirates does a great job with their warships. And I love that show, just full disclosure. And it sounds what it's not about, but that's not a point here. But I'm really curious, what is your inspiration and what defines a good warship and what defines a good mecha fighter? Because you also design mecha units for other comics. Tyrone Jackson is a good example of who you designed for. And he's my moderator in my group. In case people want to know, he's my moderator for a reason.
Okay. Yeah, like for me, when I look at, when I do mecha designs, a lot of times I might think of, like, what do I want this mech to have? Like, do I want it to be humanoid? Do I want it to be heavy, light? And a lot of my stuff, because since pretty much everything I've been just drawing has been catered towards Raxon, you know, or if I'm drawing for Tyrone, my mind shifts and say, okay, I'm going catering this for Orishas or Ayamo Stigmata, you know, whatever that case may be. So, prime example, let's take Tyrone. Like he said, he wanted Orishas, his mechs. Okay, gave me an idea of what he wanted. He wanted something, he wanted a god mech at one point, so I designed him a god mech. It's a little spoiler for his book. He's probably going to kick my butt later on, but yeah, I told. And so, you know, when I think about those kind of mechs, you know, were like the types that kind of reminded me like Voltron, Dangaio. Oh man, I'm going way back now.
Maz and
Powerful,
Kaiser Z.
powerful mechs. So those kind of mechs have been like a lot of my inspiration. And as far as when you're dealing with mass production types versus pretty much like the Gundams. When you're talking about a particular Gundam, like Charles Counter Strike, which is my favorite. That Gundam is my favorite Gundam out of all the Gundams, and the Sazabi. Those two, to me, that's the best out of all the Gundams. Period, hands down. I don't care what anybody say; those are my favorites. Fin Fanels, everything. That was my gig. So like how when I design a lot of mechs, how you have the Jagans and the Zaku's, mass production types. So I cater a lot of stuff. When I think about a lot of mech inspiration, those give me a lot of inspiration, like for my stories. Like, cause like in Raxon, we have multiple planets that humans have colonized, and they are all different divisions. So each division has its own line of mechs and everything like that. So when I take that world and I look at it and say, okay, kind of like Xeon from Gundam, you see how they were mass producing a lot of different mechs, and a lot of them were prototypes. When you watch the original Gundam, they were throwing out everything as fast as they could. So a lot of that was going on, in my story as well, where mass production types and similarities from each division, because we're all doing knowledge share, because we're all fighting the same enemy, mostly. So let's take one favorite mech that I use is the Mortar Boy Series 1. That one was a platform for a lot of divisions to use, and what they did was made their own spin-offs of it. So one Mortar Boy from Armor Tide might look different from the Series 1. It may be bulkier, it may have more weapons on it, because that's what they wanted. Another one from Crimson Star, they wanted theirs high mobile, flight capable for space operations as well as aerial and atmosphere. So a lot of those things I cater mechs towards, like in my stories, and like I say for Tyrone, he wanted some enemy mechs, basically cannon fodder. So gave me some ideas. I put some together saying, okay, you don't want to have your bad guys just looking like crap, and your good guys mechs looking pristine and sweet. You want to have a good balance, so that if it's a fight scene, if this ever gets to, when you're having a mechanized fight scene, you want to have it looking good, that they are putting up a fight versus you just mopping the floor with them, and it's just like, okay, this is a grown man fighting a baby here, so so a lot of those things come into character, like when I'm designing my mechs and power armors, for the different divisions. Like for me, when I look at the power armors, I look at like Tech-A-Man, or as we called it, Techno-Man. Size differences, and everything like that, as far as maneuverability. And like I say, which different divisions, different weapon systems, different body designs, and different elements. Because, like I say, a lot of the mechs and power armors are basically on the same platforms. So that's why a lot may look similar. And a lot of my drawings, they may look similar, but I did design that for a reason, because it's just showing like the evolution of a lot of the mechs that we're using. Like you look at Gundam, you see how the Gundams evolve, but they still keep certain key characteristics. The face, the faceplate, a lot of times is the key characteristic. So with like same thing with the bad guys in Gundams, you always see the Cyclopean eye, and so many. And with Gundam, you see it so repetitive because you'll see the same story being told over and over, but just by a different character. Where I'm kind of leaning a little bit away from that move, but more towards like Macross and Robotech, where not necessarily the love story, but more so capturing characters and seeing how they're dealing with it, and generational overtones with it, seeing how each character is dealing with this war that everybody's trying to figure out why is it even happening and how did it even start? And that's the biggest mystery behind everything is what's going on is why are we at war with aliens versus, my God, we've met aliens. We came across aliens and we're at war. Why? How did this happen? How did it get to this point? And why is it that we have aliens behind us and aliens in front of us? And it's a big, wait a minute, what the hell is going on here? On top of what the Raxon in Raxon Dominion is, which is a creature. And it is a creature that is extremely powerful to where it actually is the whole base of the story, whereas on our side, the human side, it wasn't the biggest issue. It becomes the biggest issue. But for the aliens, it's like they're on a campaign to wipe out one of their cousin races that for some reason we gave refuge to. And that's one of the biggest mysteries that's going on in the story is like, why were we so quick to do that with everything going on where the human race was about to we were all about to nuke each other once again. And we're talking about way in the future where we already had worlds at war, humans against humans on different planets. And next thing you know, aliens and okay, we stop. All right, now we got aliens here. What's going on here? Where and and I'm saying it like that because there is something bigger going on, that's being played out that I'm trying to play out in the comics. That people when they start seeing, they start being like, oh, okay, now I'm beginning to see what's going on. With the different planets and the different divisions and what one particular person has done that kind of lit the match for all of it.
So let's talk about that. We're going to talk about this because this starts with Mobilization. And Mobilization is kind of the prequel. It takes place 60 years before most of the main stuff goes on. And it kind of sets the stage, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so what is that like to almost have the prequel comic? And we're going to start diving into it because we're introduced to Eden, which stands for pretty much Earth Defense, Elite Defense Earth Network. I got it right. And then I'm going to get these names wrong, but I believe it's the Geometry. And the Torva Hydax. And then we have the Raxon are also sort of thrown in there. And you alluded to what they are exactly. But what was it like to even have this prequel? Because it kind of does set the stage, but it also leaves a lot shrouded in mystery. And it's a nice intro into it.
And, well, the funny thing about Mobilization, here's the funny part. Mobilization started off as just a mini little comic that was going to be thrown in the source book. And it's actually not the prequel. It kind of picks up the 60 years after we first encountered the aliens. The prequel the story is actually kind of told in Juggernaut Part 3, where it shows a little bit of what happened 60 years prior to them coming. But Mobilization, that's the only reason Mobilization was in black and white, because it was really just supposed to be a little extra little piece in the source book, but wound up Damone talked me into just making it its own book. Damone and Tyrone, for that matter, they both talked me into just making its own book. So that's why it's got like split in half, like 11 pages. I was like, look, y'all made me do. But yeah,
it provides background. A lot of background.
Yeah, it introduces main characters and to get a glimpse of what's going on and beginning to get an idea of how the aliens are reacting to us. That they're testing us as well to see what are you up to versus are you going to stop us from what we're here to do? Or are you really wanting to be at war with us? Do you even know why you want to be at war with us? Versus just give us what we want and we'll leave, because the thing about aliens in my story that I told everybody, I said, this is not Star Wars. You won't see any aliens in clothes. You won't see any aliens in bars. I said they're not here for our resources and they're not here for our women. um, I mean, it's almost a cut and dry story with a lot of different things in it, that tell a lot. Turn this phone down; it's going to keep chiming. Sorry about that. um, because like I say, well, like with Source Book 2, to dive into the alien side of the story, so it's not just, yeah, aliens are attacking us, and yeah, why, but like for each alien character, they have a story and why they are the way they are, and that everybody, even on their side, isn't in agreement with what's going on, and that well, you're looking at four races because the other race that everybody finds hard to pronounce is the Lena Minari. I say it so fluently now because I've been saying it for years. But when people try to spell it out, they be like, Lena. I say, yeah, I kind of put it in the source book so you can spell it out, word it out a bit. They are the reason why we're at war because they were trying to escape the Garamedri and the Torva Hydax for something they did. And they were facing extinction. And something brought them here. And for some reason, we gave them amnesty to land on Earth. Out of all the places, out of all the planets we've colonized, they came to Earth for some reason. So, and humanity, for some reason, open-armed welcomed them and turned against the other two aliens. So, our weapons we were able to do a lot of damage to their ships that came, the armadas that was attacking. But their focus wasn't us at all. But we made it a fight. So they left. 60 years later, they bring a planet to a gunfight. So, and not only did they bring a planet, they brought their god, which is the Raxon, which is actually dormant, and it has been dormant for quite some time. But it is so powerful, they're using it to power the planet that they brought, which was one of their moons around their main planet. So, yeah, they brought millions of theirs, and that's going to be, explained over time as well. So, yeah.
And we're going to table that. We're going to table that. Because we got to talk about Juggernaut. And Juggernaut is kind of the flagship. And kind of what is the spark and kind of sets this world on fire. It's over 3 parts, and it's definitely interesting as we get Randall Davis handles things, and a lot of stuff's going on, and there's some betrayal thrown in there, and there's certain humans might be more the enemy than the aliens themselves, which is a reoccurring theme in all your comics to some degree. And also there are sacrifices that have to be made. And well, let's just say not everything is as it seems on this planet and quote unquote destroying the Raxon. Or can the Raxon be destroyed?
Yeah, Juggernaut was probably it was one of my funnest. I had the most fun working on Juggernaut because the whole premise of that story was boots to the ground. We are at war with them. The whole thing is trying to find ways to take out the Raxon. They got us matched fleet to fleet, so getting in there is going to be hard. And it's not on the surface, and they know that this planetoid is pretty much almost hollow. So they know there's millions of them, millions of aliens inside, but they know they got to find the Raxon and at least try to take it out. Because nobody knows what it looks like. All they know it's there, and we got to try to stop it. So the whole point of Juggernaut was Randall Davis's team, who were pretty much like a penetration team, had volunteered to try to get in there, along with several other teams in almost a suicide plan. One that was going to cause a lot of casualties and a loss of a lot of life, a lot of ships and everything. So basically a forward move You know, fold in, fall as debris, hope you can get in, get boots on the ground, get to looking. Don't know where you're going to look, don't know where you're going to find it. But his team has been more so. That's the kind of tunnel rat move that they do. You know, they're the infiltrators. You know, they get in and get out. Even though this is a bit higher, but they managed to pull it off. And as they get in, they learn. They're in there for quite some time. You know, and they're learning more and more about these aliens. You know, and seeing that maybe things aren't quite the way they think, you know, but they know that the aliens are a lot of telepathic. So in their power armors, they're using psionic dampeners, so they can't be picked up mentally. And they're thinking they're the only team that got in, you know, only to find out later on that somebody Randall once knew, hadn't seen in quite some time, had managed to get her team in as well. And at this point, it's now, okay, do we keep this mission going? Or how do we get out of here if we do find it? Because now we're running low on ammo, you know, and everything like that. And only to find out that there's been another team or maybe several other teams that got in. And that's when they learn of the betrayal of human instinct and survival on top of devious intent.
Pulls a John.
You know, yeah. And, you know, well, in the book, you know, you see somebody who has no intentions on changing their ways, now that they've been in there for who knows how long. Because that's what I kind of left out was, did they come in with the first wave, or did they come in a different time? And so you see the betrayal that happens in there, and I kind of put it in the writing so you can read the dark betrayal to see just how insidious it kind of got. And Juggernaut, well, that was mostly between 1 and 2. 2 is where it kind of got pretty gritty. And in 3 is when you begin to see more of the aliens, you know, and you're seeing, you see at the end what happened and what Randall is going through to try to make sure his team gets out of there, and that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get to the Raxon, and that he finds it. And it's well guarded, and it's much bigger than he thought. And the thing is that, you know, you begin to learn, okay, what these aliens are capable of, and seeing a little bit of their hierarchy, and also just how tough they are. You know, that sometimes the aliens are just as powerful as, you know, you are in a power armor. Hence, one particular character that was in book 3, Sukaris, is one of the Garamedri characters. And he is a very powerful Garamedri, and that'll be talked about in the source book too, where you learn why he's so powerful and how he became that way, because they have different castes, different types. You know, they're not clones or anything like that. They are all individuals. So I try to have them all look a little different from each other, so it's not stereotypical. They're all looking the same. The difference with the Garamedri are more reptilian type look. The Torvahydax are the more insectoid types. They're bred by the thousands, so by queens. So a lot of their appearances may look alike, but they're able to tell their individuals apart. And like in Juggernaut Part 3 is when Randall learns a big secret as to what's been going on when he makes contact with the Raxon, you know, where he sees history of the alien races, and knowing that something happened that caused their wars and how it came to our doorstep. And that's a huge, huge thing, because he now is the only person that has come in contact with the Raxon itself, the only human being to even, you know this huge secret, you know, that could unravel a lot of things, you know, in the whole Raxon universe, so to speak. So he becomes one of the most important humans there is because of that. and it's kind of told a little bit too in Critical Strike Part One and Two.
Yeah,
So
let's talk a little bit about Critical Strike because Critical Strike deals with the planet Titan, and Titan has minimal defenses. There's two Eden ships out there, and they have their own unit, which is the Shadow Major Division. And those mecha units are very interesting. They're different than the main Eden Force. We're going to talk about Crimson Star in a little bit, which is happens sort of during Critical Strike, but sort of after to some degree. And they have different units as well. But what was that story like? Because clearly, not to ruin anything, but Randall Davis survives this situation on Juggernaut. Not to ruin anything, but I think we kind of have to for
mhm.
purposes of what's going on here. But there is stuff in play, and once again, not everything is as it seems because the enemy here and the aliens here are acting a little bizarre for a particular reason.
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, with Critical Strike, like I say, Titan is Shadow Star. They don't have a fleet. They're part of Eden, but they haven't been manufacturing warships because they have limited resources, from their planet. So they relied on Eden to have, provide forces for them, fleets of
So
ships.
they're Japan.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how that story starts off. And yeah, when the Torva Hydex make land on the Titan, they're they're looking for Randall, who's from Titan, and he's from Shadow Major. That's his division, so they're on his home soil. And when they wiped out the one city, and started collecting people, it's like, what's going on here? So of course, the Eden fleet that was there, they trying to send in ground forces as much as possible because they know at this point Titan is defenseless. They were the defense for Titan, and as more Torva Hydex ships came in, their reinforcements, they were overwhelmed, so they had to leave with what they had. And you begin to see the queen of the Torva Hydex, who's primarily looking for not only Randall, but she's looking for something else that attracted her to Titan. And I'm not going to say what that is, but we know what it is. Um, and for them to start looking into your own backyard as to why things are happening here. And she lets one of the officers know what's going on. And when Randall comes, it's like, okay, you were in my head before. Yeah, I don't want that again. But she lets him know exactly what's going on. And he begins to see, and it's like, wait a minute. Are you telling me that this is what's going on here? Now he knows two secrets,
Well,
Uh,
Tyrone says no spoilers, please.
all
He just said in the
right, no more
comments,
spoilers.
so
But
we're gonna keep it at
yeah,
that.
so yeah, so Critical Strike parts one and two. That's why I named it questions. And then as far as part one is questions, part two answers. So you'll kind of get a little bit of both in those two books.
And now we can't spoil anything because we just can't. So we're gonna
Right.
move on to your next book, and I know we're leaving things out there, but that's why you have to go buy it. You have to go buy it to find out the answers.
Yeah.
But as this is going on, or sometime around when this is going on, we start diving into more the human deception and power game that's going on because there are 5 or 6 forces spread out throughout the entire Earth defense sector and the human defense sector in many ways. And so we started talking about Crimson Star and Mars, in particular with advent of Turbine and the Plan, which kind of deals with Mars and Crimson Stars doing something a little shady, mech development, which is nice because it's actually nice to see that, as well as overthrowing and gaining more control within the entire Earth forces, or at least Mars wants to, and Crimson Star wants to. And that's kind of the plan, not to ruin anything with that, but it's interesting because this is now showing that humans are just as much the enemy as the aliens are, as well as also showing, look, there's real production value in building mech units and newer technology, and having far superior weapons is also thrown into this to some degree, and it's very interesting. So what was it like getting to play in those spaces? Because this kind of changes the entire comic and this entire universe in many ways.
Yeah, with advents of Alpha Turbine, that was something I wanted to start showing. Was seeing that there's more just going on than just battle with aliens. There's this things that's going on behind the scenes, because you have several divisions within Eden, because Eden is basically the umbrella. It's the main core, and every planet around it is under its umbrella. And you have a lot of the different divisions that feel differently, because of the wars prior. And with Mars being pretty much like the second most powerful of the divisions. And then there's that's being, I ain't gonna spoil that, but in Advents of Alpha Turbine, there's something else going on.
Politics in play.
Uh,
Politics are in play very much.
yeah, big time. And you see that there's, they're doing weapons developments that nobody's knowing about it. And so when Alpha Turbine Division, which is a division of Eden, learns of this, because what they were doing was creating new mechs, and new weapons developments, to combat the aliens as well. But also the way Mars looks at it is that once this war is over with, we got to deal with each other. Who's going to be in charge?
Attack on Titan. Pretty much. That's what this book is. To put it bluntly, is that they're developing not just weapons to deal with the aliens. They're creating weapons to deal with other mecha units and other people. And it goes into, okay, humanity, and it hints at this idea, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and this might give people an idea, because the war is far from over in your comics. The war is far from over.
Yeah.
But this gives the idea that humanity might be winning this war here, but what happens next is what the question is being asked. And it's really, really interesting when we get into that. But we got a lot of ground to cover in this series before we even get to that issue. And so I found this to be extremely interesting, because The Walking Dead, Attack on Titan has done this, and a few other series have done this very effectively. Mulovin, I think MUVLUV has done this really well as well in the mecha space. So I thought this was fascinating for that reason.
Yeah, it was an interesting comic. And to put those politics in there, because that's what I always liked about Gundam, was that it was political. It's a space opera that's political more so than anything, because that's what's going on. And I wanted to make sure that I have that nuance of, different things of going on versus just being, okay, this is just a war of aliens and humans, that somebody's looking for an end game, and that, like I say, a lot of divisions look at Eden as a dinosaur, and who's going to be in charge if Eden falls? In fact, what happened if Eden falls? Who's going to step up? Who's the most powerful to take its place? And you begin to see power players, in these comics. Who's actually the puppeteers and who's actually the puppets. And so, like I say, in the advents of Alpha Turbine, you see in powerful weapon developments and serious betrayal and secrets. And one of my books that I had fun with was The Plan. The Plan was an interesting book. That book was one that I was a little scared to do for a while. I was like, how will people receive this? And the funniest thing is it's gotten huge reception. A lot of people like that one because of the main character in that one, Sovereign Satine Elise. Everybody likes that character, and I have fun with her character. I said, okay, let's put. I like seeing females in charge, and especially giant females, So yeah,
I like her
and
character for a different.
with the plan, it was a plan. Wasn't the best plan, but it was a plan. And seeing what happens when plans don't go the way you anticipate them to. So, it's like a lot happened in that book because actually I had went back and redid several pages of that book and added some because when I first did it, it was missing a lot. So I went back and filled in some gaps in it, gave it a little bit more detail because it was pretty straightforward, vague. It's like, okay, they went there, this happened. All right, end the story, versus, okay, you're talking about a key person here. You need to elaborate a little bit more on this key person or these key people, to see what's going on. And I was trying to flush that out in that book so you can see that there are powerful divisions, that are existing within Eden. And that even Eden is like, okay, we got to be careful what we do here. Because just because you are under that umbrella and armistice doesn't mean that you're going to get the reception you think you should get because we're allies, so to speak. So, yeah.
Well, I like that character, as I was saying before, for a very different reason. And her being in charge is just a bonus to me because she's drawn in a way that I appreciate. So I'm going to leave it at that. Somewhat eye candy. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. A little bit of fan service in there.
But to back out of politics and talk about kind of the last three, and that is Mortar Boy Legion. And I agree. Tyrone said she is thick. That's the best way how to describe that. I'm sure he's appreciating it. If he's appreciating it, he should give us a heart right now for that. But anyhow, getting back to Mortar Boy Legion, what I liked about Mortar Boy Legion was that it's dealing with older mechs, and I think it kind of takes sort of a polar opposite, where it's dealing with older mechs and it's showing that they still have use. It's showing that they're still extremely useful, and it's showing that, highlights, I guess the I'm trying to think of the words here. It's highlighting the skill of the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very, very interesting because I thought that's something that isn't normally done. And I felt like a lot of the other books didn't highlight the skill and that the mecha almost took over and was more dominant. And I thought in this book and in these books, because there's three of them, and then there's, I think, like The Last Stand or The Last Man.
You had Mortar Boy 1 and 2. Then there was one that's not finished yet, and that's book 11, which is Nick the Frozen Soul. That's a whole nother story. And then Last Man Standing.
And then I find that these books highlight the pilot more versus saying the mecha unit, because we do have older mecha units that aren't, I guess, appreciated, that have been pawned off for target practice or training use. And we have
Mm-hmm.
this captain who's like, man, we're using these and we're going to win and we're going to fight and we're going to go down to the last unit standing. And it's very cool. And it reminds me of, what do you do when you have failing resources in a war? Well, you need better pilots to run your shit. It is pretty much where this book is. And I thought this book was fascinating for that reason. So, what is it like to go do that side? Because if we look at every book so far, you've covered probably every corner on map in a different way where you've gone politics, you've gone betrayal route, you've gone the traditional war story, and then we're now going to great pilots, which not saying these other people aren't, but they definitely are not the focus of those stories and they don't need to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Mortar Boy 1 and 2, it's like you said, you have the Mortar Boys as they are making newer designs, newer mechs. You still had hundreds or thousands of Mortar Boys that were still mass produced. And just like weapons now, how many tanks have been shelved for newer ones that are still probably sitting somewhere in a warehouse, like say they're used for target practice or, a lot of different things, or, gutted and remade, or put in new systems. And that's kind of like what they were doing was, they ironed out all the kinks. So it's like, yeah, this is an old model, but it's just as advanced now as these newer models that the divisions are steadily making, newer, more faster, more agile. But it's showing that, okay, you're not going to use those. Instead of those just sitting there waiting to die, I can use them, and I'll put them to use, and that's kind of what he did was, and his whole point was to break away and to start his own division, which is kind of what the Mortar Boy Legion is. But it's kind of like they're on a tether, but they're gaining support because just like in any war, your forces are concentrated mostly here in this system. Well, what about all these outers? What happens if they become an attack? Or what about pirates? And pirates exist, everywhere. And who's protecting them? And that's kind of what takes place is that, when you help somebody and then they're like, well, since you need help, we need help. How about an exchange? We'll help you build and we can get you pilots. You protect us. Okay. All right. Now we're gaining ground, and that forms, their bonds in the outers, the outer systems to where in Last Man Standing, because I'm going to skip Nick, because Nick is his whole little story. In Last Man Standing, which is book 12, where one of the more powerful divisions of Eden took notice of what took place with the Mortar Boy Legion. And they're kind of like, okay, we want to give you some help as well. But in the middle of that happening, of course, you got to have an attack. And when you were at limited resources, you got to fight with what you got, and it comes down to literally last man standing. And I'm not going to give any spoilers on that book because the ending of it. But yeah, it was a fun book to do because I wanted to see a side where everything isn't just you're just mopping the floor with everybody. You want to see what happens in these politics behind as well, but also seeing what you can work with and how you're right on the brink of getting something new where it could be snatched away from you at any given time, and fighting with what you have when it's all you got and you're there with no way out. It's like you either die standing and fighting or you lay down and just get stepped on. and he's not one to lay down.
And we're going to leave it at that with all this stuff, and we're not even going to touch Nick the Frozen Soul, because I'm including that book in what I'm going to deem as phase one of this entire universe and the birth, because clearly there are so many jumping off points, and this is almost the foundation for your universe and building it. And you have the source book, and you have a second source book coming out, hopefully sooner rather than later. But
Oh yeah.
the idea here is that there's places to jump off of, Critical Strike and Juggernaut and Mortar Boy Legion and a variety, even those Mars books that we were talking about, The Plan, and with that other book that's skipping my mind here. But the point remains the same, where there is so much more to talk about. There are consequences that have to be addressed. And so, and I have a feeling you know where you're going with this, because you want to do 100 books and your wallet is saying, Daddy, thank you. But nonetheless, where do we go from here? Because there's going to be a book 13. There's going to be a book 14.
Oh yeah.
And so, because the universe is just starting, even though it looks like it expanded. I said you're on every corner of the map now in your universe, in storytelling at the very least. Where do we go, and what can people expect? Because that's what I think people want to know.
We've already started on the second arc, and and book 13, we got the premise of the story. So it's like it's going to be book 13 is going to be, not trying to give too many spoilers, but it's going to be something that's going to give you more information on different things that's going on. The second arc of comics, I'll tell this little slight spoiler, is that it's going to be focused on a lot of the divisions of Eden. Like you have Armor Tide, Crimson Star, and basically how are each of these worlds dealing with the frontline attacks. If every world gets targeted at one time, number one, you're going to expand those resources out. So how each world is going to fend off, will everyone be able to fend off? You saw what happened with Titan, when everything gets hit at one time. So kind of what's going to be taking place in the second arc is going to be everything that's happening pretty much simultaneously across the board. So the second arc of comics is going to be literally all in the same time frame, maybe days or a week apart, but all within the same time frame that, they're not going to be months apart. They're going to be like either days or a week. So you're going to be seeing how each world is dealing with the different attacks and seeing new characters, of course, new mechs, because we have over 100 mechs designed, well over 100. You'll see new ships, new stations, some of everything. And also, while doing that, expanding on the story, and trying to keep the levels of different nuances in there without it just being like, okay, this is just a battle on that planet, battle on that planet, battle on that planet. Okay, why is that planet targeted? It's the things that we want to be showing is, why hit that one? It's not about supply routes and everything. It's more to it, different things. So those are things that we're going to be fleshing out in Arc 2. And actually we pretty much got it laid out up to about Arc 6, and there's 12 in each arc. So because we do have our Gundam type mechs, our super mechs that are coming out later on down the line, our more powerful ones, which take place years down the line, because the war takes place. It's not overnight. It's going to be going on for quite some time. So the telling of the story over the years, and it's going to change up quite a bit. You're going to find out, you're going to have characters that you're going to love to hate, and some you're going to be like, I cannot wait for this person to die. And some of the comics that we're working on, because I'm storyboarding everything now, some are going to be quite gruesome. Because, like I tell people, we put a disclaimer in the front cover of each book. We're going to have to get you some of our books so you can see hard copies of everything. But you'll see, like, on the inner front page, we put disclaimer saying, parental advisory, because there's cussing, and it's violent. We say it's borderline, if not rated R. We don't the things that we're not doing that we really haven't been pressed to do is, the sex and all of the nudity and everything. Even though I have some people who want to see some characters nude, I'm debating on that. Because I can't stand watching a sci-fi, then it just breaks out into the unnecessary sex scene. It's like, okay, did anybody even brush their teeth today? So, it's those things that we're trying to keep going, to tell the story. Because I told Damone, I said, well, I'm not getting no younger. You're younger than me. I said, I got to get this story out, if it kills me. I said, for me, it's I want the comics to sell, but I'm mostly in it for the journey and to just get the story out, because I've had people say, hey, you ought to do this in the story. You ought to do that. I'm like, dude, I got the story in my head. If my head is having a bowel movement that you would not understand of getting this stuff out. I said, now, if I come back to certain things, I'll make little changes if they fit. But yeah, this has just got to get out of my head and get on the paper. And with all this COVID stuff going on, it's been a little hard because I'm an essential worker. So hence why I was able to make it last week. But it's like when I'm on my downtime, I am drawing like crazy and writing, typing up stat everything. So it's like we already have majority of the stuff for the source books already formatted. So source book 2, we're hoping to have print ready by the end of this year. On top of, like, on our website, we have we're working on some 3D prints that we're going to have for sale of some of our ships. We're working on making 3D prints for the mechs, several different types of mechs. We're looking into toy lines and possibly even tabletop game. A lot of different things we're trying to do. Me, I'm focused on the comics and telling the story, but it's a huge universe, so we got a lot of areas to play in, but it's just trying to get us noticed, because one thing me and Damone both said, we suck with social media and advertising. That is our biggest flaw. We are horrible with social media. I'm just old, so it's like, me and this stuff is just like, okay, what do I say today? I don't know. So, but we're working on it, and trying to get everything out. But yeah, we're going to be working on consistency this year for sure, and trying to let everybody know what's coming. When Nick the Frozen Soul will be done, hopefully this month, it'll be finished finally and printed, and posted on the website so people can get it. And comic book 13, we're going to be starting probably in July, for getting it ready for print, and as well as the others. So we got a lot of work ahead of us, but we're having fun doing it. And that's the main thing. I tell everybody, if you're not having fun putting your comic out, you're doing something wrong. And this is fun, just rolling it out,
So you mentioned COVID-19, and clearly COVID-19 has torpedoed everybody.
Oh yeah.
It's wrecked the big guys. It's wrecked Diamond. I don't know if most people know this, but DC just ended their 25-year exclusive agreement with Diamond on a
Mm,
temporary basis.
wow.
And they're now printing with some other people, and they'll probably want to go back to Diamond anyway at some point. But the idea here is that it's been a real shining opportunity for indie. The con world, though, has been wrecked. And
Yeah.
so I'm very curious, because you have a very cool photo out there. I'm going to embarrass you, where you're either, it's next to your table or you're standing beneath it, and I think it's one of your mechs that you designed, and it's kind of a little bit blocky, but it looks dope as hell. And it's on your website, and it's
Yeah.
really a cool picture. And I don't know where that's from, but I want to bring that up because it's a pretty cool picture, and you do a lot of cons. And cons, in my opinion, are going to change to some degree. And right now, nobody's going to them. And for indie people, especially smaller cons and medium sized cons, they are a way to convince people to see your product. And also, artists need to be seen, much like a podcaster needs to be seen sometimes to know that
Right.
you're a person. Because it's important to know who the artist, the creator, the writer, the person behind the book. So what has that been like? Because I've been asking everybody who's been on this, over 22 interviews, 23 interviews up to this point. So I'm very curious how that has been and how COVID-19 has affected you in this entire process, from marketing to printing to delays, and then the con side of the business.
It's had a big effect because we were originally planning on doing at least two cons this year. Um, One got canceled in its entirety prior to the COVID, because they said the location that they were using, it was a huge location. It's probably like the biggest place in Detroit, the Cobo Hall. They did it like 2 years, big turnouts and everything, and they were still growing. But then it was the Michigan Comic Con. Then they just stopped. I was planning on being there this year because me and Damone was gearing up to be like, okay, this is going to be a big one. This is one we want to be at because we did good at, we do pretty good at the cons. But then they canceled it prior to the COVID. This was canceled. Like we found out it was canceled last year. A few of my friends, Devin Campbell was one. He draws mechs, and he went to it. Him and Andre Batts, they were there, and they said they did okay, but it's indie, a lot of indie people. But that one got canceled. Then there was the Motor City Age of Comics that I was going to be doing this year in June that we were going to be doing, and it got canceled because of the COVID. And like here in Michigan, we're still on. Governors keep trying to keep everything stay at home order. And with me working as essential, it's like I'm still having to go to work. So every day I come home, I'm self quarantining because I'm exposed to people. So it's been pretty tedious. And then when I talk with my commissioners, some are in the Philippines. And so it's even stricter for them there. A lot of them are working from home. So depending on their workloads from home, you're at home, you got your family at home, you got everything, and then you're trying to get everything taken care of. So you got even less time. And depending on what your resources that you're using at home, you're burning them out even faster, versus you're going to work and you're using a work computer. Now you're at home using your computer and you're tying up all your time there. So, like people make the jokes of, well, I got to make the adventure from the bedroom to the front room, but it's actually a true thing, with people working from home. So it's impacted a lot of them because I've had commissioners slow down a lot. I mean, some almost to a train stop, takes a while to get back going, to a complete halt. And for us, the funny thing is, it's like for me, the lockdown isn't bad for me because it kind of frees up a lot more time for me as long as I'm not being mandated at work because I'm a nerd. So I got plenty of time. All I'm sitting at when I'm at home, I'm just watching anime or sci-fi or Star Trek or something like that, or I'm drawing or writing. So it's like, okay, I got off work at regular time today. Cool. so and get a good night's sleep. But for a lot of other people, it's been, a headache, a nightmare. And for those that were throwing the cons, I can only imagine the stress that is because, you spend money on that stuff. And, you don't know if you're going to have people saying, well, since the con's canceled, I want my money back. Okay, now you got to get that back, and a whole bunch of stuff. And some have tried to push them to later on to hold out for hopefully that the orders will lift and then hopefully people will show up. where a lot of people are like, I don't know, because I don't know if I want to be, if a lot of people show up, I don't know if I want to be in a big crowd right now, play it
Con-pro
safe.
is a real thing.
So that's going to have a huge effect where I've told a few people, I'm like, if you're planning on doing a con, just save it for next year. Be on the safe side, plan it for next year, because I said, for me, I'm probably not going to do any, if they did decide, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it this year. I'm like, safety and health a little bit more primary. So playing it safe is a little safer for me, because I have asthma and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to risk it, and my partner, he's got autoimmune disease, and so he's like, I don't know if we're going to be, if he's not going, I ain't going, because it's like we're partners in crime. So, and he can explain all the details of certain other things that I might not have explained right. So it's like, I said, well, we're business partners. So, hey, and we consider each other family. So you don't do it, I don't do it. We just have to wait till next year. And it gives us time to work on the big guy, which is the mech that you saw in the one picture from the one con. And that's actually one of our mechs. That's actually the Mortar Boy 1. That's what's on the cover of the Mortar Boy Legion. And Damone built that. And the funniest thing was, it was supposed to be to stand on its own at the con. We had to build a stand for it literally the night before and putting it together on the parking lot before we even got it into the set it up. And once we finally got it to stand, we started bringing in our parts. Everybody's looking like, what is that? What are they? Oh my God, what did they just build? And this thing is just looming over everybody else's displays. So, you come into the place, you're going to see it, And we had, that was fun because, we had a lot of pictures. He didn't want to post all the pictures on the website. I was like, our thing was, let's post them all. He was like, no, we don't need to post all those pictures. A lot of people were taking pictures with it and everything. And I said, well, we got to post some. So, some with us, some of our table. We had some of our 3D prints there at the tables, as well as posters, our big banner, everything. And the funny thing about that, the big mech, the Mortar Boy S1, as we call it, it wasn't even finished. We didn't even get a chance to finish painting it and detailing it. And we were even missing the 2 hip pieces. We didn't even stick on it, because we were too busy trying to get it to make sure it didn't fall over at the convention. So, but everybody enjoyed it. And that's what things we was going to be working on this year, because we was going to be turning my basement into a workshop so that we can fix it, make sure that whenever we prop that thing, it's going to stand. And our 3D prints, because we got several 3D printers, but they're at his house. So he needs them at my house because he's in an apartment. So I'm like, yeah, we need my basement workshop. Let's get it done and get some more printers. And then we can just do whatever we need to do. So we got a lot of projects, but with the COVID, that stopped that right there. We're quarantined from each other. So better not play. We got to play it safe, because we got to still go out and buy supplies and, work going back and forth. So we're hoping that maybe July, some of this stuff will be lifted at least a decent amount, to where, okay, we said once it's lifted pretty good, we'll go full steam into everything and just plan everything for next year, with the cons and everything like that. But what we said we will do this year is try to work on more social media, more online, more towards the website, trying to get traffic drove to that, and try to get on Comixology for digital prints. I'm more of I like to hold stuff. So when indie people say they got a comic, I'll be asking, is it printed? Well, it's digital. Well, I guess I'll just print it when I get it. I'll pay for it, send me the copy, but I love to see and hold, actual copies, because it's like I might display it. I just want to hold it, my computer breaks or something, I can't look at it, so different things. But, it's been affecting. And even for printers, some companies have been down. So might have a product, can't print it, so that's the other flip side. So I'm hoping that when we finish Nick the Frozen Soul, that there's a printer that's out there running that we can send it to and have it printed so that we have the whole first 12 arc finally in print. But as I said, we're looking into Comixology because Tyrone's on there and I'm following his lead on there, for everything. So whenever I'm trying to do something, I ask him, I was even asking him, how did the podcast go? How do you do this with a visual? Because I've never done this before. So he was like, you'll be all right. It's not hard. It's pretty easy. You'll be able to do it. It's no problem. You done did other podcasts. You can do this. I was like, okay, because I'm terrible with this kind of stuff. So, but like I go to him for my information. Ask him, okay, so you're on there. How did you do that? How do you get this product? How do you get that product? He is my wellspring of information and good friend because I'll show him my books. He'll show me his, and we get, inspired off each other a lot of times. I ask him, what does he think about this? He might, if he doesn't like it, I'll be like, damn, okay, let me fix that. And some things I'll be like, well, it's too late. I can't fix it. It's already on the print. So, but he's a real good friend to have. And we try to list on our website all the people that we had working with us on the Raxon under our contacts page. You can see every commissioner that I've gotten, that I've worked with, that has done some work for Raxon. I like to try to list those people, because without them, I wouldn't be here right now. I would probably still just be drawing mechs and trying to get them colored here and there. And, I'll be still talking about the book. Yeah, to get printed at some point, and never going to get printed. But we're getting there. And, I'm hoping that all of this stuff passes soon, but I still want everybody to be safe with it. It's like I'm not rushing it, because I'd rather be safe than sorry with everything. But we are going to be rolling out. It's not going to stop us. So we're going to still keep stuff coming, and we're just hoping to get a fan base and people that'll hopefully like the stories that we're producing and want more.
And speaking about getting a fan base and getting your books into people's hands, and you got t-shirts and you got the source book, I know you got some other stuff as well out there. The models are coming, from my understanding. Where can people find all of this stuff? To follow you on social media, as well as the website has a bunch of information that goes beyond the comic, and there's just a lot of information that actually really helps when you're reading the comic. There's an entire section just on Crimson Star, for instance. So what is the website? Where can people find it? Where can people buy the comic? Where can people buy merch if they want to buy merch? Where can people follow you guys on social media? Because that's just as important as actually buying a comic, as well as, people typically, what comic should they start with and jump in with to see if they actually like it and they want to take that risk?
We can be found on our main website is www.raxondominion.com. RAXON Dominion, DOMINION.com. That's our main website. When that site, you can go to our store page. You can see all the books that we have, all our comic books that are for sale, posters that we have, T-shirts with the division logos on them, because each division has its own logo. The 3D prints, we have pictures of some of the ships that are coming, unless we took that down, but I think they're still up, that we're going to be printing. The website, like I say, it is huge. So it has tons of information in there to tell you.
You get lost.
It's basically almost as much information on the website as it is in the source books. It's almost like the site is a source book, because it has clickable. Everything is pretty much clickable on the website. The pictures, you see information on them, the pictures of the mechs and everything. You click those, you'll see drop downs of mini stats of everything, characters, storylines, planets, the whole 9 yards. And those are things that we have in the source book, on the website. On Facebook, we're Raxon Universal Dominion. On Instagram, we're Raxon Dominion, and on Twitter, we just did started Twitter. It's Raxon. I'm trying to remember. Did I put Universal Dominion? It's either Raxon Dominion or Raxon Universal Dominion. But we're on Twitter as well. Like I say, I'm horrible with social media, so please, people, bear with me. We're trying. Um, but our website is the main thing, and I like to thank Alonzo Von Threet. I always say I get his name. He made the little video of the ships flying towards the screen on the website. So people can see that when they're on pretty much a laptop or a computer. When you click it, you're at the right spot site when you see the ships flying towards it and everything. Um, and I think that made our website pop a little bit more. Even though some people, when they see it on the phone, they don't see any ships moving, but it's like, okay, switch to a desktop view and watch what happens. Uh, but yeah, you can get our merchandise primarily from our website, our main website, where we have everything there. And I tell anybody to, if there's something that you saw and you're not sure, if you reach out to me if you want to order it a different way. My thing is, I'll get it to you. You know, and like the source book, I can give you a quick shot of that. It's a pretty thick book. So yeah, lots of stuff inside, lots of pictures, lots of mechs, lots of ships, a lot of information. So like I say, 276 pages alone. And that's just book one. So like I say, each book will be mimicked, same layouts and everything like that. Talk about planets, divisions, characters, mechs, the ships, the whole storyline. But yeah, that's where we're doing. And as far as the comic books, we have them in order on our website. I tell everybody, start off with Mobilization. If you don't want to start off with a mini black and white, start off with Juggernaut Part 1. That's my favorite. It'll pretty much get you in the story. Because I'm hoping that I put enough information in there so that if you never did see Mobilization, Juggernaut can actually still get you started and into it, so you can get a grasp as to what's going on, and start to see different things in there. And it was the first actual colored comic that we did. Mobilization was black and white, like I said earlier, because it was supposed to just be a mini comic, but it wound up making its own. And it's actually the only comic that has the shorter amount of pages. Like each comic has 34 pages in them. Mobilization is the short, like 22 or 24 pages. But it was designed that way. It may get revamped later on down the line. Don't know. And we're going to be rolling out some mini comics too, like little fillers here and there that people will be seeing. So as we grow more and more, and like I say, hopefully build this fan base, like I say, get everybody just coming to our website, like I say, to our social media, and spreading the word about us and checking us out. And definitely inbox me if you got idea or if you got questions or concerns or anything. Let me know. And like I say, I'm on Facebook as Thomas Johnson II. You see one of my mechs as my avatar. So if you see a black mech with some flames on it, that's me on Facebook. So yeah, or just go to Raxon on Facebook and you'll find us. But yeah, it's a lot.
Well, I think we're going to stop there because I think we covered a lot of stuff. But I am going to say this. I have two things to say. First off, support is not just economic anymore. Support means follow. It means retweeting. It means sharing. It means taking a look at what somebody's doing, liking the Facebook page, following on Twitter, liking Instagram. There's no excuse anymore. If you like what you heard and you like what you see on the website, but right now times are tough and you really can't afford to go and do that, the best thing that you can do, and in many ways it's even better than buying a book in a lot of ways, is following on social media, because that helps tremendously and it creates buzz and has a lot of other effects, and also commenting and engaging and leaving a comment on Facebook, because I know that when I get comments on my podcasts and things like that, it makes me feel good and it makes me want to create more. And it puts me in a better
Yeah.
mindset. And if somebody wants to throw me money and wants to buy the book and throw you money in and buy your book, I should say as well, that's great too. But definitely, there's no excuse for not supporting, especially if you like this.
Mhm.
And so I'm just throwing that out there. And then secondly, if you're listening to this, you listen to it all the way through, one of the things is I have a group called Indie Comic Connect, which aims at connecting indie comic creators with each other, as well as connecting them with podcasters who are looking for guests. And so if you want to be part of that, it's a free group. All you got to do is
Okay.
ask. You could join up and you can engage. There's really no rules except the fact that don't be a dick and don't be an asshole. No hate, no homophobia, and all the stuff that makes you a dick. Don't do it. And then secondly, it's really meant for more of the comic realm type of stuff. I have no problem with mainstream comics in there as well. If there's an indie comic creator, such as like Image, I don't have a problem with that. Just to make it clear for those who are listening and got to this point in the interview, but it is meant for people to connect with each other. And so I just want to throw that out there because there'll be a link down below. It'll be one of the first or maybe the fifth link, depending on how a bunch of people commented on throughout this and viewed this already. It will be down below. So it's free to join. It's a great group to join, and it's going to be growing, and it's much needed in this comic realm. So just want to throw that out there. And
Oh,
I
definitely.
appreciate everybody, checking this out and watching it. And thank you for being on also, because this was super exciting. And I was super excited when you reached out to me the first time. And I'm so happy that even though you had to cancel last week because you had to go to your job and be on call and everything, we got to do it this week because this was a good interview. And I actually really enjoy your mecha work.
I greatly appreciate you like it and honored that you had me. It was real.